Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and it's time today to do a Game Week 23 episode of Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid. Guys, we've got lots to talk about today with the deadline very soon, so if you guys enjoy this, make sure you drop a like, do subscribe, let's get started. So buys are players you probably don't have but should consider bringing in, sells are players you probably have but should consider removing, keeps are players you might be thinking about removing but I think you should keep them, and avoids are players that are pretty hyped up right now but I think they are potential traps that should be avoided. A quick look at the results from Game Week 22. So I think in general in Game Week 22 we did pretty well. I would say the only exception would be the Haaland and Julian Alvarez situation, but hopefully you guys read the pinned comment on the last Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid video, which I basically switched my mind between the two players, and certainly as we move closer to the deadline, because we went quite early on last week's Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid, we did actually end up saying that actually Alvarez, he's not a sell, he's actually probably one of the best captaincy choices of the game week. So hopefully a few of you guys captained him for his 13-point haul. Aside from that, I think we were roughly on the money there with our picks. So yeah, let's see if we can continue a good trend of Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoids. We seem to be doing pretty well in general right now. Let's keep it going. So our first buys are some Newcastle players, because Newcastle actually have a really nice run of fixtures in the next three with Luton, Forest and Bournemouth. That is a nice trio of fixtures for a Newcastle team that maybe will start to find some form, given they've had like a little break now. They've been out of European competitions for a few weeks now. This is going to be good for them. They're getting a lot of their main players back, certainly in the defensive area, so it makes sense to try and have a look at some of these defenders. Now Luton, coming off the back of a big result, are they going to be able to reproduce it against Newcastle away from home? I'm not so convinced by that one. So I do think Dubravka could be a really nice goalkeeper, really for the rest of the season, because Pope is still going to be out for several months, probably until your next wild card at least. And I think Dubravka is just the best goalkeeper now to own. Super cheap at 4.2 million. It doesn't look like Newcastle are going to sign a replacement by the end of deadline today in the real life transfer window. So I think Dubravka is really just a goalkeeper to own. Like, definitely you're going to want to play him most game weeks. What I like about him a lot is that even in the difficult fixtures, he makes a whole bunch of saves. You can see 29 saves in his last 5 appearances. That is a hell of a lot. So he's going to be picking up a lot of those save points, even in the games where he does concede, which is very nice indeed. So a top goalkeeper who's performing well and nailed on in a fairly decent defense in Newcastle. They're not the best at the moment, but, you know, they're okay and certainly room for improvement, which I think they will. I think Dubravka is just, in general, a very strong goalkeeper pick in FPL terms. We've got Trippier here as well. I think this might be an opportunity now to jump back in on Trippier if you have maybe been missing him for a while. This could be the time things come alive for him as well. Obviously, an assist and 2 bonus points in the last game week against Aston Villa in Game Week 22. Which is pretty nice, and we do know when Trippier keeps a clean sheet or gets 1 assist, he's going to be getting bonus points, no matter what else happens in the game, really, because it's just what he does. He creates so many opportunities. He is such a key player in terms of that creativity on those set pieces as well. A really useful player indeed. So, nice player to own, but as long as he gets some assists, gets some clean sheets, he's going to be getting a lot of points in the near future. And you look at these fixtures, you know, often with defenders, we play the fixtures more so than we play the form. I do think the form is perhaps going to improve from here on for Trippier, who looks like he is going to be staying at Newcastle now. Now is a good opportunity to kind of look at him, talk about him, think about him a little bit more as well. And keeping the trend on Newcastle, I'm also going to throw in Gordon here. If you're looking to pick up a new midfielder, I'd say Gordon is probably the guy to go for. I mean, there's so many directions you can go for in terms of Man City midfielders. Maybe you fancy a Liverpool player, even though Liverpool are playing Arsenal this week, so be aware of that one. But Gordon, you know, good attacking player with some good fixtures from an attacking point of view. Now, a few people have been kind of questioning who is going to be taking penalties, because it looks like Isak could potentially be injured. Now, it could be Trippier, but it also could be Gordon, or it could be Fabian Schär. It's going to be one of those 3 players, so I definitely think the likes of Trippier or Gordon might have a chance of taking a penalty if Isak is injured for this game week, or maybe beyond that as well, because you never know how long a player is going to be out for when it comes to Newcastle. But more significantly, if Isak is injured, and we know Callum Wilson is still not quite ready and might even be leaving the club, Gordon is kind of shoo-in to be the striker, the central striker for Newcastle, certainly in the short term. And in the short term, we have these great fixtures. So I think there's a real nice opportunity here with Gordon. If you already own him, great. You'd definitely be looking to keep him at this point. If you don't have him, you're looking for a new cheap midfielder, I think he may be the guy to go for right now. So, Gordon, yes, indeed, he does go down as a buy for me. Looking at forwards, really difficult. And I think my advice in general for you guys this week is probably stick with the forwards you have unless we get news that Erling Haaland is going to be starting. I hope we do get some news. I think looking at all of the forwards, there's so many great options right now. You guys already have all of these great options, you know, Solanke, Watkins, you know, even Julian Alvarez. I think he has got a very good chance of starting as well. I don't know if I would be naturally selling these players, but if Haaland comes out, we get that news that he is going to be starting, then obviously you go for him. And he is probably the only forward I would recommend as a transfer this week. If Haaland is not starting or not looking likely to start, and I don't think it's guaranteed, then stick with what you've got. But yeah, certainly we know what this guy's all about. We know we're going to want to have him in our FPL teams. Sooner rather than later, we're going to all bring in Haaland back into our teams. Is this the week to go for it? I don't know yet. But if it is, then you got to do it. Just go straight in on him. Let's get back to business with Erling Haaland, because him with KDB in that team as well, this is going to be lethal. It's going to be lethal. We're going to see Erling Haaland of last season all over again. And he could dominate captaincy, dominate games every single game. We can become that guy in FPL all over again. So I'm going to recommend to sell Matt Turner if you are looking to make a goalkeeper transfer this week. You know, in general, of course, you know, we never fully recommend a goalkeeper transfer. I think a lot of the goalkeepers that, you know, are available right now are okay at the moment. You know, if you've got Dubravka, great. If you've got, you know, maybe an Areola but don't have a Dubravka, then maybe you could consider making a transfer. But it would be Turner. He would be the guy I would be removing. Mostly because the form is bad, but also because it looks like Forest might be signing a new goalkeeper. That could be happening today. In general, Turner is just, he's not having the best of times at the moment. You know, he's conceding more goals than perhaps he should. And Forest are looking for a new goalkeeper to replace him with for the remainder of the season. So I think Turner as an FPL option is pretty much done. So if he's just going to stay on your bench, fine, keep him. But if you actually need a new goalkeeper, then Turner would probably be the guy to sacrifice in order to get yourself a solid goalkeeper who can maybe pick up some points over the coming game weeks. Obviously, Turner to Dubravka, I think would be a very good transfer if you do feel like you need a new goalkeeper right now. I'm also going to put Saliba down in the sell tier list category, I guess. Yeah, I think it's mostly for people who are doubled up on Arsenal defence, because looking at these next 4 fixtures, I don't really like it. Liverpool, West Ham and Newcastle all probably score against Arsenal. Even though Arsenal are a good defence, you still think these teams will manage to score at least 1 goal against them. Even if it is just 1 goal, that's all it takes to wipe out all of the usefulness of a player like Saliba, who is so dependent on clean sheets in order to get FPL points, because his attacking threat is basically non-existent, which is quite difficult there. Doesn't really take shots, doesn't really make passes or anything like that. It's Gabriel really who is that threat from set pieces, not Saliba. So if you've got Gabriel, I think you could be tempted to keep him and bench him, but a player at 5.6 million, very, very expensive. I think he's a pretty easy player to sell for another defender this game week, because how often are you going to look to play your Arsenal defenders over this coming, you know, period of fixtures? Ideally, you wouldn't play him in 23, 24 or 26 either. You maybe play him in 25 against Burnley, but that's about it. So yeah, Saliba might be time to go. If you've got Gabriel, I would understand selling him, but at the same time, maybe you can afford to bench Gabriel in the short term. Saliba, it's just not so easy at that price tag. Sticking with the Arsenal theme, I think this is a good time to remove Ødegaard. You know, we've got that Nottingham Forest fixture out the way, which obviously was a favourable fixture for Arsenal. But now we've got Liverpool, which is a tough one. It really is a tough one. Obviously, the Ødegaard experiment, for anyone who bought him, hasn't really worked out. And I think now is the time to cut your losses and just replace him. Whether that's going for a cheap guy like Gordon, or, you know, maybe going for a De Bruyne or Diogo Jota, who, again, warning, Jota does play against Arsenal. So although he is a decent pick, I don't think he is an elite pick this particular game week. Maybe you can wait 1 more week before going for Jota, for example. But Ødegaard, yeah, I would be looking to sell him right about now. He's just not taking, you know, any shots in dangerous areas, really. And yes, he is providing some creativity in this Arsenal team, but it's not enough for an 8.5 million price tag, especially when there are a few other decent attacking options from the likes of Man City at the moment. And, you know, that Newcastle team looks quite tempting as well. And, of course, Liverpool, always an option. Spurs looking good at the moment as well. Yeah, just not really a place in our fantasy team for Ødegaard right now, unfortunately. And the sell in the forward category was the most difficult thing I could have possibly done. I'm really not comfortable selling any forward this game week. You know, the one exception would maybe be, if we know that Haaland is going to start, you would maybe sell Alvarez for Haaland, or if you've got like a player who looks like they might be injured, like João Pedro or Isaac, then maybe remove them, only if we do find out that they are going to be injured, because you probably want to keep João Pedro and Isaac if they're not injured. So yeah, wait till closer till deadline before removing injured players, I guess, for Haaland, but in general, it's tough. And I think, you know, Watkins plays against Sheffield United. Solanke, I don't think you want to sell him. So that kind of leaves us with kind of the second tier of forwards. And that contains the likes of Cunha, who is a decent player, a decent pick, a decent FPL option, but he's not an elite option. He's not like a top pick like a Solanke, like a Watkins, like an Alvarez. So I think that's where we go to naturally in terms of who do we want to sell. So yeah, really, guys, honestly, I'm not comfortable selling any forwards for Haaland this week. There is no one player that I would be keen to recommend to you guys to sell. If you have a player like Cunha, it's like a second tier kind of forward, then I would sell them. Or if we find out that Alvarez is not starting or that Haaland is 100% starting, then maybe you move Alvarez to Haaland, something like that. But can I really say to sell Watkins or Solanke this week? Unfortunately, no. Even Darwin Nunez with the double game week coming up, probably coming up, it's difficult to sell Darwin as well. He was very close to more FPL returns last game week. So, yeah, that's where I'm at right now, guys. I'm sorry I can't give a clear answer on which forward to sell. There is no clear choice, unfortunately. Maybe we get some better clues closer to the deadline. A really disappointing result for Edison in Game Week 22, conceding in the last minute of the game pretty much and getting that late pointless yellow card. It is just, it's just really unfortunate. I do feel sorry for Edison owners in Game Week 22 because he was a good pick. I put him down as a buy. I really liked him as an idea, and it very nearly came off as well for Edison as a goalkeeper pick. But there's no way I'd be selling him. It was a fine margin. It was such a fine line between, you know, getting that, getting those points and not getting those points. FPL is often like that, but I do think you stick with Edison. We've got a decent fixture coming up against Everton at home, which is nice. But then that double game week, 2 home fixtures, I think you've got to hold on to Edison at least until that double game week. Then maybe thinking about removing him, downgrading him, going for someone a little bit cheaper like that. But in general, I think if you're looking to go for a Man City defender right now, Walker is obviously not nailed anymore, apparently. So Edison is probably the clear choice for a kind of a defensive player from Manchester City. So if you already have him, there's no way I would be selling him right now. I'd stick with him at least until this double game week is concluded. So he's going down as a keep. I'd also look to keep Estupinian. Really disappointed for him. I mean, I think we all expected big things from Estupinian against Luton, but to see him concede 3 goals in the first half and then get substituted at half time, there was nothing more that we can say other than pure disappointment. It really, really was. And, you know, I definitely felt it bringing in Estupinian into my FPL team last game week, and now finding that he's on 0 points. People are going to be disappointed, naturally, but he is still a good pick in general. Yeah, definitely so. We've still got some very good fixtures coming up. Crystal Palace, Sheffield United, and Everton in the next 4. All good opportunities for a clean sheets from a Brighton team that typically are actually fairly solid defensively. I know they don't always show it, but actually they don't concede too many chances, and was super, super random that they conceded so many goals against Luton. I don't think that's going to happen every game week. I think it was a bit of a freak incident. None of us saw it coming. So, you know, maybe we shouldn't judge that, you know, the Brighton players on that one game too much. So, therefore, Estupinian is going to be a keep. Phil Foden, also a keep. I don't think he is as good of an FPL asset now that De Bruyne is in the team, because it's going to force Foden into the wide position. So I don't think Foden is perfect necessarily anymore. But I also don't think De Bruyne is nailed on necessarily. You know, there's going to be games in the next few game weeks where De Bruyne might get a rest, and Foden is going to thrive in those opportunities. Foden, I still think, is fairly nailed on in this Man City team, at least as nailed on as a Man City player can be, because with Pep Guardiola, you never fully know. But again, just like Edison, you've got to keep this player until at least this double game week. And looking at these fixtures for Man City, I think they're really nice from an attacker's point of view, because Brentford are conceding a lot of goals at the moment. Bournemouth are still not 100% there defensively. Everton, you could maybe say, is actually more difficult than the other two from an attacker's point of view, if you're looking at Man City players. But it's that double game week, really, isn't it? To get Chelsea at home, Brentford at home, 2 teams that have been conceding goals, even though you wouldn't necessarily think of them as poor defensive, they are teams that concede goals. And Foden being a player who is reasonably nailed on for Man City, you want that kind of player for these games. So Foden, to continue his form, hopefully continue to do well, I don't think you should sell him. Like, surely we're not selling players this close to a double game week. Don't overestimate Brentford. They are conceding at the moment, and I think Man City could do some damage there. And I think Foden has got just as good chance as anyone to be involved in those goals. So yeah, stick with him. He returned last game week. Why are we selling him anyway? And Solanke is a forward I would not be willing to sell. I think, you know, I don't have Solanke personally, but, you know, I've got Watkins. If I had Solanke and Watkins, I would be selling Watkins before Solanke. So even though, you know, I'm kind of trying to dodge the question of which forward should I sell, because it's not one I really have an answer to right now. I think Solanke is one player I would not. We've got Forest and Fulham in the next two. I like these fixtures. By the time these fixtures are passed, I think we get possibly, there's like maybe a 50% chance of that we get a double game week announcement for Bournemouth as well. That's likely to be sort of game week 27, game week 28. I think it's going to be one of them where Bournemouth will get a double game week, including Luton. And the fixtures in 27 and 28 are nice for Bournemouth anyway. So yeah, he is a player you could potentially sell in the short term, maybe against Newcastle and City, and then bring him back in. But if you already have Solanke, I think you keep him to at least these next two games, assess the situation. Have we got a double game week announcement? If we do, then you can make a decision from there. For now, I think it's sensible to keep a player who is, you know, he has so many advantages over the likes of Watkins. He's cheaper, significantly cheaper, like 2 million cheaper. He is on penalties, and he is the talisman in a decent attack. And even though Watkins is good, I don't know necessarily that Watkins is going to hog as many of the goals and assists maybe as a Solanke within a Bournemouth team. So Solanke, penalties, good for bonus points, central to what his team is doing. I think he is a nicer pick than Watkins at the moment. So therefore, Solanke will go down for me as a keep. Okay, so Pickford is the most popular goalkeeper transfer in this game week. I think that's because a few of you may have noticed that Pickford is now like the highest scoring goalkeeper in FPL, which is crazy, but there we go. Obviously, there's going to be some temptation there with 2 clean sheets in the last 2 for Everton, which is, yeah, pretty nice. I think they're just the same situation as always. Whenever Sean Dyche finds himself in a relegation scrap, he just comes alive. And now Everton are right back in the bottom 3. Maybe they come alive again, but the problem is, you know, when we look at the next 2 fixtures, it's Spurs and Man City. And if we look at the best attacks in the league, it is Spurs, Man City, and Liverpool. You throw in there as well. So the next 2 games are pretty much the, you know, 2 of the 3 hardest games you can play in a season if you are a goalkeeper, if you are an attacker, because these teams score goals. These teams are relentless, and you don't back Pickford or Everton to keep clean sheets against these teams. You just don't. Surely, guys, surely now is not the time to go for Pickford. And are you going to spend a transfer and basically just be hoping for save points in the next 2 game weeks? Does not seem worth it. So if you are looking for a new goalkeeper, you know, first of all, do you really need a new goalkeeper? Are you that desperate? Like, is your current goalkeeper actually okay? And second of all, if you are going for one, are you really going for Pickford now? Is now really the time to go for Pickford? For me personally, I'm not convinced. So yeah, done very well recently, but against these next 2 teams, this is tough. This is really tough. Now's just not the time. And we're also going to put Connor Bradley in the avoid category, the hype player, the man of the moment, like 4 million. That's all he costs, 4 million for a Liverpool defender who is getting clean sheets, who's getting goals, who's getting assists. It sounds incredible on paper, right? Well, the only problem is Trent Alexander-Arnold. So right now, we'll see how things play out. Maybe Trent plays in midfield and Bradley keeps his right back slot, but you just know that this is a risky time to go for Bradley. And given that the next fixture is against Arsenal away from home, do we really, really want to go for him now? I don't know that we do. I really don't think this is the time. So I think if we maybe give it 1 more week, this could be an absolute gift. This could be a revolutionary FPL pick. In theory, it could be. But I think we need to see first, can Bradley and Trent play together? If they can play together at the same time, brilliant. But we need to get that information first, because if Bradley's just going to go straight back to the bench and he's not going to play, then you're wasting a Liverpool slot on a player, you know, when we could have a double game week for Liverpool coming up very, very soon. It hasn't been announced at time of recording, but I think there's a good chance it gets announced within the next 24 hours. I don't think now's the time to go for Bradley. As much as it's exciting, it's just not the opportunity. Arsenal away, we don't know how nailed he is with Trent in the team. We need to see them play together. If they play together, let's talk again. But now, we're not talking. We're not talking about Bradley. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Yeah, we'll put him in the avoid section. Rodri has to go in the avoid section as well, unfortunately. Yeah, again, because Man City have this double game week coming up and also no blank in 26, because Liverpool blank in 26, but Rodri and Man City do not. We're all going to be looking for Man City players, and those Man City places in your team are very, very valuable, very, very crucial. Yes, Rodri has got a couple of FPL returns against all odds again recently, but do we really want to go there? You know, we've got Foden, we've got KDB, we've got Haaland, we've got Walker, we've got Edison, we've got Alvarez, who could still get a few minutes over the next few game weeks. We've got all these players. We've got all of these players that we're going to be looking at the moment. So do we really have a place for Rodri? I don't think we do. Yes, he might come out with some more random attacking returns, but he's a defensive midfielder. And if we're looking for the upside, it's probably not here. It's probably not here. Like, if we're looking for a mega haul, it's probably going to be someone like, you know, Alvarez, Foden, KDB, Haaland, of course. It's not going to be Rodri, so not really feeling this one. And we're going to put Adebayo as the final avoid, which seems harsh. And honestly, guys, looking through his numbers, in general, he actually looks like a fairly decent pick. You know, 4.8 million, decent underlying numbers. It's actually not too bad. But here is my problem. First of all, we've got Newcastle away next. I don't think this is the best fixture in the world. We've got Manchester United in a couple of weeks as well. You know, Man United aren't great, but they don't concede that many goals, really. So the fixtures aren't perfect in the next three. Might get a double game week, but even if we do, it's gonna one of the games is going to be against Liverpool, so that's a tough one. A blank after that in 26, and I think this is the kind of crucial thing here. Because in Game Week 26, we really, really need to find some cover. We need some coverage in our team. And you guys are also already going to own Liverpool players. You're already going to own Chelsea players. You're already going to own Spurs players. I know you do. You own these players. And all of those players are already blanking in Game Week 26. And you want to add in another one. I think the only way I would consider buying Adebayo is if I was free hitting or planning a free hit in Game Week 26. And I would plan for it as well. And I would purposely buy players like Adebayo if I was committing to free hitting in Game Week 26. But I think for most of us, Game Week 26 is probably not the optimal play for a free hit. So for the majority of people, Adebayo is just not going to be the pick to go for. But certainly an interesting one. Certainly an interesting one. But I think if you buy him and you're not free hitting in Game Week 26 and you've got Spurs players, you've got Chelsea players, you've got Liverpool players, you're going to be screwed. You're really, really going to be screwed. And if you keep adding players from these teams, including Luton, you're going to be even more screwed. And I think that is a danger and a trap that I think a lot of FPL managers are going to fall into in the near future. And I think we as the engaged FPL managers, need to be one step ahead of that. So in general, again, we got to leave these transfers to the last minute, try and gather information again about Man City specifically, because I think a lot of the transfer moves we make will be all based around if Erling Haaland is likely to start or not, maybe if Julian Alvarez is liking to start or not, and stuff like that. So yeah, again, guys, let's try and wait as late as possible because everything revolves around Man City, and often we do get little nuggets of information before deadline that can make a huge difference, as we did in Game Week 22. So let's see what happens again, because that's going to be a big impact on where you go, where you decide to go in the end for your transfers. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you did enjoy, make sure you drop a like. Do subscribe if you are new around here. I know about 40% of you guys are not subscribed, so make sure you fix that by clicking the subscribe button. I would massively appreciate that. But aside from that, guys, we'll be back with another video probably tomorrow morning, because I want to get that team selection video out early on Friday. And yeah, hopefully I will see you guys there. Until then, I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.